life.
Right.
You'll go to rest. And that's what happened to Jesus. He talked about in Psalm 16 about how God caused his flesh to go to rest. He said, my flesh has gone to rest because I have been persuaded of your goodness towards me. And because I've been persuaded of your goodness towards me, I have a certainty of glory and life manifesting in me, and nothing can keep it from happening.
Right.
And so Jesus' flesh was able to rest on the cross, right?
Yeah.
He didn't see any reason to try to give himself life because he was persuaded of the integrity of the Father to him, meaning the Father will not suffer him to see corruption. What that means is he won't allow death to conquer his body. Corruption speaks to our physical bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what Jesus said is, I see that God, even when death comes upon my physical body, will not allow death to conquer my physical body.
Yeah.
I see that God won't leave my soul in a place of sorrow,
That's right.
but he will come and fill my soul with fatness even as I lay with death upon my body. And he said, because of that, my flesh has rested in the certainty of God's goodness towards me.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the gospel. But the problem is we've all the time been preaching about how God forsook Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I talked about this at the beginning, but Paul said he lived his life in this world by the faith that was in Jesus' heart. So Paul said there was a faith in Jesus' heart as he walked the earth.
Right.
Paul said, I've seen what that faith is because God came and revealed his son in me. And so now, what that means is I see the way God was with Jesus is the way God will be with me. I see the way God thinks of Jesus is the way God thinks of me. I see what God promised Jesus is what God has promised me. I see God's intentions towards Jesus is God's intentions towards me. And so now this life I live in this world, I live by the same faith that Jesus lived by when he walked in the earth.
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
So what we're designed to do is to be preaching not about what Jesus did as far as the miracles and the loving. We're supposed to preach about the faith that was in his heart so that we could see what that guy believed. And when we can see what he believed, that faith starts doing something to us.
Yes.
And then we start living by the same belief that the Son of God lived by. And what belief did he live by? God would not leave him or forsake him.
Yeah.
That God would not suffer him to see corruption.
Yeah.
That he would not leave his soul in sorrow or death.
Right.
He knew God wouldn't hide his face from him. He had a new song. Abba, Abba, Abba. See, Adam did not have that song.
Yeah.
And I tried to connect that in there in the message so we could see what was the overall mentality of man
Yeah.
Yeah.
prior. That it was impossible for man to trust God.
Right.
It actually was impossible. If you didn't have the faith of God dwelling in your heart, you can't really trust him. Even Abraham, who was the father of faith, he went off and had an Ishmael.
Yeah, right.
Right? I mean, he's talking to God. And how long after that before he went to try to have an Ishmael? Right? And so man was in a place where they might be able to trust God in a small sense or that sense, but not like we're designed to be able to live. From trust just being born in our heart. And messages like that, the simple message, will bring forth trust in all of our hearts long term.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
Is what it will do. Because we'll just start to find ourselves thinking about God like Jesus did. And what God thought about Jesus brought forth rest and life in him. Right? And so if we start thinking about God like Jesus did, the same thing is going to happen to us.
Yeah.
Notice how it happens to you.
Yeah.
We think it's something we got to bring about. No, it's something that happens to you as you hear the same thing about God that Jesus heard.
Yeah.
Right? And we can hear the same thing about God that Jesus heard in him. He is the Word made flesh. Meaning, the Word he heard about God was made flesh in him so that we could hear it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And so now we've heard the same Word he heard from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yep.